continue to let folks in as we keep going. So thank you all again for being here. Welcome to our October Evergreen Health Forum. My name is Mark Uman, and I am the Executive Director of NAMI Eastside. I first would like to thank our sponsor for our monthly forums, mental health forums, Evergreen Health. Thank you to Evergreen Health for promoting mental health and well-being in East King County and for being a tremendous partner for NAMI Eastside. It's my pleasure tonight to introduce my colleague, Romy Romero, who joined NAMI Eastside in 2023 and serves as our bilingual programs coordinator. Romy graduated from the University of Washington with a bachelor's degree in business administration. She has dedicated a significant portion of her career to working in client-facing roles within legal organizations, vulnerable communities in a variety of legal matters, and ranging from domestic violence to immigration law. Before NAMI, she served as a technical recruiter at Amazon.com, where she assisted software engineers in navigating a rigorous interview process by offering relevant resources and training to candidates around the world. At NAMI Eastside, Romy has been a tremendous leader in creating spaces and programming that serves Latino folks in the Eastside and beyond, with culturally relevant education and support. Thank you, Romy, for being here and for sharing your work with us at this month's forum. And so I'll turn it over to you.
Yes, well, thank you so much for the great introduction. I already kind of did my own introduction, so I'll skip some parts. Yeah, my name is Romy Romero. I'm the Bilingual Programs Coordinator at NAMI Eastside. Today, I'll be sharing all the amazing work that we have accomplished over the past year, but also I will share some insightful information about the challenges that we face in our efforts to achieve more effective outreach. I will share some strategies that we use to improve that engagement with our Spanish community in the East Side. And I really hope that you'll find something valuable in my story and perhaps even be inspired to incorporate some of these ideas into your own work, especially when you are working with international communities. Can we go next slide, please? Thank you, Jason. So as Mark said, I don't know if he said, but I'm from Peru. I'm from Lima, Peru. I was born and raised there. Yes, I've been in Machu Picchu. Sorry, I couldn't bring a picture. I don't know where the Machu Picchu picture is. I live in Seattle for more than 15 years. I have a small family of three, actually, including myself. Francisco, my husband, he's Peruvian, and my daughter, Beatriz. She's a 2 years and 8 months old little girl. I went to law school in Peru at one of the most prestigious universities in Peru, it's the Catholic Pontificia Universidad or University of Peru. I also earned a bachelor's degree in business and administration. As Mark say, I work in several immigration law firms. And I'm very related to immigration law. I can even, if you have an immigrant friend, I probably can give them some advice and probably not charge them as much as usually lawyers charge. I also I've been a technical recruiter at Amazon, and yeah, I work in like hiring very specialized profiles around the world, across the world, and trying to always find these people who has this profile that meets the Amazon standards or Amazon bar. Okay, so now let's talk about my work at NAMI Eastside. NAMI Eastside en español started from a long time ago, but I began working with NAMI Eastside since November 23. Since then, our focus has been on building strong relationships between NAMI Eastside and the Hispanic community in East King County. Before than anything, all what we want is to gain the community's trust to have meaningful conversations about this very strange term called mental health, which is actually a term that for many of us, we don't even know what it is. So just as soon as we started working, we start creating a lot of new channels to really engage with our people. We have a Facebook page, but we kind of relaunch it. I remember at that time we only have like 4 likes or 4 people who were engaged with our Facebook page. Now we have almost 200 people engaged with our Facebook page. We also open a WhatsApp chat line. I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with WhatsApp, but WhatsApp is a text application that most people from around the world use it, especially Latinos. I also try to review everything, all the material that we have at the moment, to make sure that there was cultural relevant content. And also, I have to do some localization work. As you know, Latin America, or in the world, actually, there are 21 countries that speak Spanish or that it has Spanish as their official language. And Spanish can be quite different depending on in the country that you are at. So I kind of how can I say, like proofread everything what we have in a way that the Spanish that it was in our content was more neutral, in a way that anyone from Mexico or Peru or Uruguay, everybody could understand it easily. A lot of the content that you find out there in the United States that is in Spanish, you usually use Spanish, Mexican Spanish, which it can be a little confusing for some people. We also host numerous community engagement events, and I will talk about them, but they were very helpful, very, very helpful. We didn't really kind of bring people to talk about mental health. We brought people at the beginning to just have a good time. And that's how we started our relationship with the community here. And as for now we have more than 20 volunteers. And actually, I'm saying at least, I say more than 20 volunteers because every time we do events, these 20 volunteers replace other 20 volunteers who helped us last time. And now we have more than 200, because of WhatsApp, now we do have a network of more than 200 families, Spanish-speaking families. Our very new when we start with something very with some programs that were kind of simple. Sometimes for some people, they were asking how is this related to mental health? Yeah, because we start with some support groups for mamas Latinas or Latina moms. We also start doing these veladas, which are our engagement events. And with the partnership of NAMI Washington, we also could introduce to our programs Mi Mente, Mi Fuerza, which is a adapted version of Ending the Silent presentation. We also have, in the partnership with NAMI Seattle, we also introduced Nuestra Historia, or Our Story, which is a presentation that it's also adapted to in our own voice. But we kind of changed, we did not only change the translated, we also kind of make it more cultural relevant. Can we go to the next slide, please? We also, after doing all these events and programming, we got the trust of King County, and recently, like I think in July, we host this amazing event that it was more like like, how can I say, like a focus group event where we were able to invite or to receive the feedback of more than 80 individuals who are part of the Hispanic community. And the great thing about this, and that this is probably one of the few events who host this type of event where we actually were able to get the feedback of the people. Not from, most of these events usually are, have providers or people who work for the government. But in this time, we have actually the people who actually need the services. And they were able to provide insightful feedback. We have it all recorded, and we were able to have a good report that we provide to King County. And now we are expecting, we are hoping that they use all this information that we gain so they can now have it in mind, have all this information to design their programs for the community. The great thing about this event is that we not only have women on the event, we also have a group of youth, and we also have a LGBTQA plus group. And then we also have one male fathers of dads group. And it was quite interesting. It was a lot of different perspective, and I think this program actually was so useful for me, because from this program I was able to create our Juntas de Resiliencia. Jason, can you go to the next slide? Thank you. So the Juntas de Resiliencia are a support group. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the NAMI or connection support groups. Okay, these support groups are almost the same dynamic, but they're tailored to meet the needs of the Hispanic American community living in the United States. They provide a safe and welcoming space that encourage connection and sharing. They have a structural model is followed to ensure a smooth and purposeful meeting. However, the program is very flexible and can always be adapted to the unique needs of each communication. That's also one of the things that make it a little bit different than any other support group, that the flexibility that we have. These meetings or these support groups are more focused on resilience and conflict resolution, helping participants to avoid emotional stagnation while promoting access to available mental health education. In other words, we actually follow the structure that we follow in this type of support groups, help the participants to identify their emotions, and so how find strategies or coping skills to confront this emotional problems or issues or confusion. We also provide some education. We are starting to create a library, like a Spanish library of resources for them, and then we also use we try to use the technology as well on those support groups. When somebody wants to know, once we have these kind of conversations, we notice that some people are repeating some topic, and we try to, on the same day, we try to find some good information, a good paragraph or some book, or we even ask to ChatGPT sometimes in a very professional way, so we can get trusted information about the topic that we've been discussing on the support group. So this is, I think these support groups are great because we are not only giving the people a chance to share these stories, but we also kind of learning together, like kind of using technology, using the books that we are, that we have in Spanish, just to kind of more think about future, about being better. I know that these meetings are no substitute for therapy provided by a mental health professional. However, they've been designed and reviewed by specialists or mental health providers who fully understand the culture and challenges of Hispanic community in the USA. We were able to connect with 8 psychologists who have earned their psychology degrees in Latin America, and who also have the experience of being an immigrant. These groups are facilitated by community members who receive training to effectively facilitate support groups. We also interview each individual or each volunteer. Even though not to kind of see if they have the experience of a mental health condition, it's important if they do. It's actually really, really great if the facilitators have an experience with a mental health condition. However, in these interviews, we don't really require people to have a diagnosis of mental health, but what we actually more look is to ensure, that there is a genuine commitment to follow the program. And I think that's very important, because sometimes volunteers get very excited in the beginning, but then they kind of stop for some reasons. And we want to really make people committed to this, because not only NAMI, Eastside depend of them, also the community. Can I go to the next slide? From this training, for this new program, we've been able to train 12 community members last month. Actually, it was this month, in the beginning of October. And now we are opening. Well, we already have a support group or Junta de Resiliencia for parents with neurodivergent or children with special needs. We are actually reopening again our support groups for Mamás Latinas. And we are starting on Friday, our very first Latinx youth meetups, which are pretty much our Juntas de Resiliencia for youth, for anyone who is from 12 to 25 years old. Can I go to the next slide? Okay. So to kind of make this happen, it was not that easy. We have to do a lot of research. We have to kind of study a lot about the barriers that Hispanic people face when they want to get access to mental health support. We have to kind of create a strategy that it does kind of effectively do the outreach that we need. And then when I say this is because most of the programs that we have in the present at that time in November 23, they were great, but there was something missing, where people were not attending to the support groups, or there was not enough facilitators who speak Spanish, or it was a problem about the attendance of the Hispanic community and the engagement, and also the outreach. So now, I mean, I think before embarking to the design of mental health programs, I think it's important to understand some pertinent facts and underlying causes that contributes mental health crisis within this demographic. So right now, the Hispanic Latino population is increasing steadily in Washington. It's almost doubling during the 1990s, and it's reaching more than 14% of the population by 22. This is for Washington State. Also, it's also important to know that 1 in 5 Hispanic people have a mental illness or a mental health condition, and 1 in 20 have a serious mental health condition. Between 10 to 2022, the suicide rate among male Latino adults from age to 64 increased by 35.7%, and the female rate increased by 40.6%. But with all this bad news, only a little bit more than the 30% of Latino adults aged between 18 years or older with a mental illness received services in 2021. Compared with the average that is 47, the national average is 47.2. And even worse, only 6% of the licensed psychologists in the United States identify as a Latino. And also, I just actually did a research that in only the 3% of the psychiatrists in Washington are able to speak Spanish. So our resources are very limited. Can I go to the next? And let's kind of explore more about the access barriers that Latino face. One of them, I think it's important. Before you start programming and start designing the programs for Hispanic communities or for any community that you want to serve, it's very important that you understand what is the root cause of everything, right? So I think that once you know those barriers, you kind of get more empowered, and you can even help somehow to reduce the stigma. And I will go through each of them. The economic barriers are, like, for example, lack of health insurance. Many Hispanics do not have coverage that includes mental health services. Also, the high costs. Even with insurance, co-pays and medication costs may be out of the reach. Also, the job instability. There is a very strong financial insecurity that leads prioritizing basic needs over mental health. In other words, a lot of our people, they can barely pay their rent and get food, and it's pretty hard for them to think about an additional expense besides that, their basic needs. Also, you can see the language barriers. there is the lack of information in Spanish. A lot of, as I was mentioning before, a lot of the resources that are in Spanish not always are properly translated. And that makes it very difficult for us to understand, like where are the resources or how we can find care. There is also a fear of miscommunication. Some of us avoid seeking out help because of the fear of being misunderstood or not being able to express our feelings clearly in English. There is also some structural barriers, the lack of bilingual and culturally competent providers. There are very few, as I give you the stats in the last slide, there are very few therapists or counselors who speak Spanish or who understand the Latin cultural dynamics. There is also a limited access to services. Hispanic communities, especially in rural areas, struggle to find mental health centers nearby. And there is also restricted service hours. Lack of flexibility makes it very difficult for people working long hours to attend to appointments. Since I've been here in NAMI, I met so many people, and many of them, they have 2-3 jobs. And I really appreciate that they find out a way to come to my events or my programs. But for them, it's very hard to make it to find a psychologist in their own language, and also a psychologist who can attend them at the times that they're available. Other barriers will be the social and immigration. There is a strong fear of immigration status. Undocumented individuals fear being reported or deported if they seek services. We also can talk about the discrimination and racism. Experiencing discrimination can discourage many from seeking services in a system that they feel does not represent them or treat them fairly. And I hear that all the time. There is a lot of people, I have some in my support groups, I could hear some women talking about their experience with English-speaking therapists, and sometimes with even problems with the interpreters, who somehow make them feel very uncomfortable in a way that some of them feel like their feelings were underestimated. Also, the other problem that they find is the social isolation. Immigrants really experience this, the lack of support of networks. Most immigrants come here to start from zero, including myself. You come here, you don't have families, you don't have friends, and you don't even speak the language, so you cannot even make friends. So it's really hard if you don't have the sense of belonging and the connections to easily get access to resources and seek for help. I think it's also relevant to mention the acculturation stress. This stress can arise from conflicts between traditional culture belief and the values of the new culture. So that I think that also kind of adds a lot of the struggles that we have as immigrants. And then the lack of information and education, we can see an awareness of available services. Many people don't know that free or low-cost services exist. There is also confusion about mental health. Lack of education on the importance of mental health leads misunderstandings about mental health disorders and how to treat them. And then, yes, again, I get this a lot. Like, I'm so glad that we are now connected with people who didn't even know what mental health is. But this is because we kind of did our research about how the people feels about. Also, this is the most, I think the very 5 ones that I kind of talk to you guys are in somehow are out of our control most of the time. But the one that I think it kind of requests more the community's intervention, it's about the cultural barriers, and that's the hardest one. Here, I'm not saying that I think I like to always mention my disclaimer that here we are not saying that Hispanic need to abandon our culture, values, or principles. However, I think it's essential to find a balance that integrates our traditions with well-being strategies. To achieve this, I think it's important to have an open mind and reflect on what might be keeping us away from mental health or from the desired balance that we are seeking out. And this is pretty much generated because we have a very strong stigma associated with mental health. Many Latino communities view mental health issues as a sign of weakness, shame, preventing people from seeking, and then this is actually preventing people from seeking professional help. Also, our traditional culture values, there are some beliefs around self-reliance, family as the only support system, and the idea of getting by your own limit the willingness to seek out outside. It really, it's like, in other words, it's like, we tend to just say things like, oh, any problems, we just keep it at our family. We kind of don't like to speak up about our problems. We kind of feel like not okay, you know, we don't really, even that we can really work on communities. For some reason, when we talk about these type of topics about mental health, we just don't like to share that kind of stuff. And it's really hard to do my outreach with these cultural barriers. Also, the spirituality and religion, some people prefer to turn to religious leaders or spiritual practices instead of seeking professional help. And I really witnessed all type of cases on my support groups. And even I hear some women that they were secretly coming to our support groups because they didn't want their preachers or their fathers to know that they were coming to these support groups. Once again, I always tell them that we don't really asking them to change their personal ways of finding emotional support, but we just always trying to encourage the people to kind of open their possibilities of caring for their general well-being, instead of just, you know, even I always tell them, you can practice your you can use your religion, you can use maybe some holistic strategies, that's perfect, but you maybe also want to explore more options. So that's pretty much what we do, and that's pretty much the barriers that we are facing. So I hope that you guys understand these barriers. Now, can we go to the next slide, please, Jason? Thank you. Okay, so knowing all this, now that we know, I kind of share with you guys all the research that we did about our community and what is the status of our community in mental health topics. I think now is a great idea to talk about the outreach. So we kind of try to be more innovative on this. Instead, most of our programs are, in other words, instead of focusing on mental illness, we are focusing on the person, and we just focus, and then by focusing by the person, we try to find the people who need us, trying to find those by finding vulnerable circumstances or vulnerable conditions. So, for example, when I open up my support group for Mamás Latinas or Latino moms, you know, nobody, and people don't really know that they're gonna come to a mental health support group. And then the reason why I kind of called to everybody who was a mom, because I was also a mom, and I was also an immigrant, and I knew that somehow being a woman and an immigrant are just the perfect combo to being vulnerable and being prone to experience mental health conditions. So instead of waiting for Hispanic mothers to tell me that they are depressed for their postpartum, I just decided to invite them, all moms. And since January 2024, we have received outstanding attending of moms. And the funny thing is that they didn't really came to talk about mental health, but once they were attending they were enjoying the moment because we were kind of sharing, having a very open conversation. And once they start, getting comfortable with us, they start sharing their mental health experience. They didn't even know when that they were presenting mental health symptoms. They didn't know that they actually had post-traumatic stress for crossing the border and facing horrible situations that they have shared. They didn't know that they were that they have this experience. But this is the way how I pretty much I'm always doing my outreach strategy. I don't really talk. I talk about mental health, but not in a way that I ask them to change either. I just try to provide them options. And then I think that's it was not a kind of an issue for NAMI in general, because a lot of the support groups that they were out there for Spanish speaking people, somehow they were labeling. I remember I was doing some outreach about some support groups available in other office, in other subsidiary, NAMI subsidiary. And there was something like NAMI, NAMI's or support group for depression, for people for Latino women with depression. And I talked to the person who was hosting this support group, and I asked her how many people were joining the support group. And she said that most of the time there was one or none of anybody was joining those support groups. So I noticed that it was probably a better strategy to go towards these vulnerable circumstances instead of looking for people with mental illness conditions, and even people who can say that they have it. It's very hard to find an Hispanic person who actually, I just show you the stats, and only less than just slightly more than 30% was able to receive treatment. And that kind of doesn't make any sense when you see that one of 5 people were actually diagnosed for a mental health condition. So, there is a lot of people who don't really want to talk about this. And I think if they don't want to talk about this, maybe you shouldn't really be so direct in the beginning and talk about this, because they don't want to talk about this. But they probably, if you're going to approach them in a different way and more talking about, let's do a group of immigrants, let's do a group about moms, let's do a group about youths that are children of immigrants, I think that will help you to find the people that you really want to help. And I really can vote for that, because I've been doing several support groups, and I see that people don't really come because they want to be called or they want to be labeled somehow. They just feel lonely, and then they just want to figure it out, that something is wrong with them and they don't even know what it is. But they find this nice place at NAMI Eastside where they can open up and discover all this mental health work. And so our engagement strategy pretty much is based on this every single program that I do for NAMI Eastside in Español kind of follows this criteria. First, accepting the reality. Okay, so changing versus giving, right? So what I mean with that, so I don't really request my community to change their minds. I don't ask them to stop believing in God. I have women who have told me things like, I've been married with with somebody who, how do you call it? My abuser. I've been living with my abuser for 15 years, and I'm mentally ill. I'm really suffering. I have depression. I have this. And the reason why I've been with him is because someone in my church told me that I shouldn't, somebody very important in my church told me that I shouldn't leave my husband, because that's what God wants. I don't supposed to leave my husband, even when she's abusing me. So this is why I in this type of cases, I cannot tell them what to do. I just focus on giving. I just tell them, okay, you believe what you want. I give you this. We have these options for you. We have all these coping skills that you can learn. We have these support groups where you can just come and talk about your experience. And then I feel like this is something that a lot of Spanish programs miss, because sometimes they ask people to change. I sometimes went to some conference where I see that people are like, oh, you need to do these things in the American way, or you need to kind of change your mind and do the things in this way because this is better. I think when you have that approach while programming with Hispanic communities, I think you are not gonna really earn their trust, because they're gonna feel like you are insulting them somehow. Also, I try to avoid all type of labeling, especially the labels that are associated with mental conditions. I think, unfortunately, the reality is that there is a strong stigma in my community that I'm not going to be able to change. I'm not going to be able to change the way how most people think. So I have to accept it. I cannot just work in an ideal way, like using ideal terms or ideal solutions, because unfortunately they are not right there yet, and it's fine. You just have to understand the reality, and from that reality kind of manage some outreach strategies that will work. I mean, as I share with you guys, when I do to support groups, I don't call them bipolar support groups, depression support groups, or we actually kind of, even I don't even call NAMI support groups, because NAMI, the term NAMI is actually not the best, National Alliances on Mental Illness. The word illness sometimes may be very scary for people who has a very strong stigma about mental health. So this is why I kind of create all these other programs in a way that I somehow overcome stigma. Also, earn program management skills. I think that's also very important. I feel like nonprofits in general needs people who are capable, people who are experienced. I do have a business degree, and I think that helped me a lot on working on this nonprofit programming work, because I use a lot of the business tools on my programming, like marketing. I'm the one who creates the flyers, do the designs. I also am the one who promotes do the public relations and everything. I have to learn, like, really, every day I think I learn how to use social media, and also I'm like always on top of things. So I think that for programming, especially for any type of programming, you need people who have the skills, the technical skills, and also the soft skills to do this job. Also, earning trust. That's also important. I just mentioned it, soft skills. For this type of programs, especially when you work, I mean, in my case with the Spanish community, I feel like I have to always improve my soft skills constantly. I think vulnerable communities usually see that first. If you know how to approach them, if you know how to talk to people, if you are warm, if you are genuine, that's also very important. You have to be very genuine. If you're kind of faking it, or like if you are kind of, you see a lot of that in the nonprofit world, that it's all about, getting popular about the help that you give. They feel it right away if you approach them with that attitude. You have to prove them that you genuinely want to help them, and you have to have the charisma. For the Spanish speaking communities, it's very important that the person who is there providing them support has charisma, that it makes them laugh, that it makes them feel comfortable, that it makes them feel like family and almost like home. Many of our community members, or many of our participants of our programs, they don't have her family here in the US. They are lonely and and then as soon as they feel that somebody talked to them like they know them for years, they open up and they want to listen whatever you say. They want to learn. They start opening their hearts and they just want to kind of they want to really be part of this program, be part of NAMI Eastside. So I think soft skills are very important to earn trust, and earn trust is actually key for any programming, especially for Spanish-speaking programs. Also, effective communication. As I say, I everything is in Spanish. Everything that I provide, all my programs, also the media and all type of outreach that I use is in Spanish. And I kind of make sure that the Spanish language is like the main language that we have in our programs. And I think that's very useful because people feel like you are really trying to help them. Sometimes I see that some people put ads first in English and then in Spanish, or sometimes there is some radio shows that they speak most of them in Spanish, in English, and then they speak a little bit in Spanish. I found that a lot of people don't really like those dynamics. If you really want to provide Spanish programming, you have to really be fluent in Spanish and communicate with the community in Spanish. And also you have to be very respectful with them in a way how you talk to them. Do never patronize them or think that they are not smart enough, that you actually are educating them. Don't never do that attitude. I think that also helped me a lot. Also, to promote my communications with the community, I kind of use, I wrote here optimal dissemination channels, and yeah, WhatsApp has been the best channel to use to connect with the Hispanic community. And as I say, a lot of these people are lonely, are isolated, and WhatsApp gives you the chance to connect with the people directly. And they all know that when they write on that WhatsApp chat, they're talking directly to Romy Romero. And I think just to have that kind of connection gives them the sense that they feel confidence to ask whatever they need. Also, the positive tone, I think is very important to always use a positive tone. Do never tell them that they are doing something wrong. Always kind of maintain that. And well, yeah, I already spoke about the language, that is very important. Building an active community team. Okay, so NAMI Eastside, most of our programs, and actually all our programs, are community-based. So it's very important that once you earn the trust and you have created this community who is participating in your programs, I think you also have to invest in them. Invest in the people that they actually are attending to your programs, provide them trainings, help them to grow somehow. Most of my volunteers are always learning something new. Even when we are like doing some support groups, I kind of try to make them to co-facilitate me so they can learn how to lead groups of people. So we are always providing that. And I think like if you just see them as mere users, that relationship is not gonna last. So what we're trying to do in our Spanish program is to empower our community in a way that they also can feel like they have grown, they have experienced some growth by their relations with NAMI Eastside. So before I leave, I want to share with you guys a video that our volunteers actually made it. I don't know if we still have time for 5 more minutes. How are we doing?
Yep.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, I'm gonna share my screen. Okay. Oh, where is the video? Must be here. Okay, 1 second, guys. Okay. No. Hold on. Oh, okay. Okay. Can you see my YouTube video now? No, right? Okay, let me do it again. Okay, here. There we go. So this is just a 5 minutes of a 20 minutes video that our volunteers actually create. There are subtitles in the bottom, and they're explaining how NAMI Eastside, you know, how NAMI Eastside was introduced to their life. That's pretty much what the video is about. Can you now see my video? Yes? Can you see the YouTube?
You're on the YouTube video. Yep.
Yep. Okay, great.
Más consciente y más
Con
fácil
stars.
en lo que te puedes-
Can you listen too?
Yep, we can hear it. Why don't you mute yourself so we can make sure the sound's up?
Ayuda para la salud mental, porque yo tengo un hijo con una condición con esquizofrenia. Entonces me puse a buscar y vi que
Romy, you're muted. We can't hear the audio from the video.
Sorry.
me ha ayudado mucho. positivamente.
Realmente puedes sentir que el interés es puro en ayudar a las personas y yo creo que puedo venir y me siento en comunidad porque lo que yo más deseaba es como tener un grupo donde sienta esa sinceridad.
Una mamá me recomendó NAMI. Un 5 de mayo precisamente encontré el stand, me acerqué y pues ahí empezó la aventura con NAMI.
El tema de la salud mental es tabú. Se sienten que es la culpa de uno, de ellos, de la manera en que uno lo ha criado. Lo que aprendimos en NAMI es que no es culpa de nadie. Son condiciones que son causadas por un imbalance químico del cerebro. Así que no solamente yo, pero mi esposo, David, fuimos y tomamos el curso. Y el curso de familia a familia. Y eso nos hizo sentir que no estábamos solos, ¿no? Que habían otras familias que tenían problemas similares y a veces peor que nosotros.
Oh, a NAMI Eastside lo encontré por medio del Facebook que alguien compartió. He estado batallando con mis 2 hijas con la ansiedad y la depresión. Entonces, para mí, pues estaba yo como desesperada. Me recibieron con tanta aceptación y yo pues desde ahí ya, de aquí soy, ya no me saca.
Tuve el privilegio de ser parte de la primera noche que Romy organizó. Fue una experiencia inolvidable que realmente yo creo que ha sido mi rol como médico. Pude tener y hablar con mujeres de la depresión postparto. Pudimos conversar esa noche y fue un evento muy hermoso.
And I think we can stop on that. Let's go back to the PowerPoint. Okay. Okay, great. So let's go to the next slide. And I don't know why it's not letting me go. Okay. Oops. Trying to close this. Okay, great. So this is my contact information. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to reach out. If you have anyone who speaks Spanish and you think that he or she or it may be interested to our programs, please direct them to me. We do have this WhatsApp. This is our WhatsApp line. Everybody can text us at any time and we will respond them pretty much immediately. So yeah, I think that's all that I have for you guys today. I also put a flyer there of my upcoming event. It's going to be our 3rd velada for Hispanic families. This is going to be on November 22nd at 6 p.m. And it's going to be here at the Together Center in Redmond. And we are gonna do a presentation, and we are also doing gonna kind of educate people about the new programs that King County are providing for the community. We're gonna talk about their new crisis centers, and we want to make sure that our community have a good time, but also that they get informed that now there is a new, very important new resource for them for any types of mental health experience that they may encounter. Crises are happening all the time nowadays. I see it on my support group. So that's what we are doing on November 22nd. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Romy. Really appreciate all the work you do, the amazing work that you do to help expand our services for NAMI Eastside and NAMI generally, and being innovative in your approach. We have like 4 minutes left. One thing I wanted to do is share in the chat the full video of the video that Romy shared. So please check that out. It's a really great 20-minute video that covers the experiences of folks that Romy works with, but also the impact of the work that she does. So we have a few more minutes. So if anybody has a question for Romy, not to put Romy on the spot, feel free to ask that.
I've got just a couple of questions, Mark, if I could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Romy, thank you for the presentation. I'm sorry I didn't get on till about 40, I was about 45 minutes late, but
we are having problems.
if you could just, if you got involved with NAMI, that would be one of my questions. And the other one is, oh, I'm sorry. I'll repeat the question. I was wondering how you got involved with NAMI in the first place, and also the last woman who was on the video. I saw the video at the NAMI Gala a few weeks ago, and I remember seeing in that video that she's actually a doctor. She's a physician, I think. Mm-hmm. And I was wondering what her role is as a doctor in that support group, and was she a consultant, or was she just an invited guest, or how does that play in, if you can address that?
Yeah, I can start with answering the second question. Her name is Andrea Gonzalez. She's just a special guest. She's a volunteer. She provides presentations. She's a doctor, and she's also a mom of a 2-year-old baby. And she also experienced postpartum depression. And we invite her on our very first events, where we were inviting a lot of Latina moms, and to talk about that topic, that there is not really spaces where Hispanic women can talk about it. You know, it's always required that we need to be strong, that we need to figure it out. And it's great that we have this resilience culture, right? But we invite her because she knew a lot about her own experience, and also she know a lot about her professional experience, you know. So yeah, she's just a volunteer. And for the first question,
thank you.
Yeah, and then for the first question, well, so once I became a mom, I kind of took a break. I was not working. I wanted to be with my daughter, and I also experienced those blues, those baby blues. And I don't know, like I think I've been dealing with mental health conditions for pretty much since my childhood, but I didn't know about anything. I didn't really got diagnosed. I just started going to a psychologist probably since a year ago, actually, since I started NAMI. Yeah. And so I remember that I was kind of, sad, depressed, and I felt like I needed to do something to kind of get that idea out of my mind. And I just looked up on LinkedIn, and I found Mark's post about this role. And it was just perfect for me because I live in Redmond. It was just a 10-minute drive for me to get here. And I also was passionate about that our mission, that is mental health, because I was experiencing some mental health symptoms at that moment. But honestly, support groups saved my life. I really enjoy. I think I was missing that connection with other people who speak my language, and that's what I got from here. And then now I'm like fully recovered and being more creative as ever.
Thank you very much. Thank you for being here.
No, thank you for your question.
Thank you so much, David. And thanks again, Romy. I'm putting in the chat link if folks can fill it out. It's our demographic and evaluation survey. It really helps us out understand who we're serving with our programs. It's what our funders ask for. It's totally anonymous. So you can provide your feedback. Let us know what you thought about tonight's program, as well as giving us some information about yourself. So I'm going to put that in the chat. Thanks again for joining us for the October Evergreen Health Forum. Thanks, Romy, again. I hope everybody has a good night.